Hello everyone, we are Team D and we're going to talk about doing business in South Korea. We're going to cover different topics such as the effect of globalization on South Korea, its economic and human development, and we're also going to focus on cultural differences between South Korea and Australia. Our team is composed of William, Nicole, Selena, Amy, Nisheli, and Sveta. South Korea is in Eastern Asia and occupies the southern half of the Korean peninsula and many islands. It borders both the Sea of Japan and the Yellow Sea. It is a republic whose president is the head of state and whose prime minister is the head of the government. South Korea is populated by 40 million people and the main language spoken there is Korean. So now William is going to talk to you about the effect of globalization on South Korea.
Globalization means a shift towards a more integrated economic. It has two types of form. One is the globalization of the market. Another is the globalization of products. South Korea is deeply involved in both areas. But is it a winner or a loser? We have to talking about the positive and negative aspects. The positive aspects, globalization allows people to optimize their business structure to increase sales. For example, Samsung Electronics has its location like USA, Silicon Valley, or England, London, for its R&D centers, and China for its manufacturing plants. Globalization plays an essential role to multinational company. And moreover, thanks to globalization, hip-hop has been accepted widely and it largely promotes the status of South Korea in the world. The negative aspects, economical and unemployed creations are always issues we cannot ignore. It is especially true from 1980s to 1990s, when its domestic market is not well prepared. In history, South Korean government has to ask for the rescue fund from IMF to help it out its economic crisis. And besides, globalization also causes environmental issue. And as the industry and manufacturing skyrocketed in the 1970s, air quality has deteriorated, repaired in soil. And this picture the daily air quality in the 2060. And as we have talked, globalization benefits the country in many spaces, like increasing the nation power and created jobs. However, the hasty pace of it has also left the nation a lot of problems. So the answer may be in the long term to economic. The nation is absolutely a winner, but to people and the organization involved in the crisis, globalization is a losing game for soon.
As William said, globalization is played an important role in the normal and modern society. So globalization will really closely impact on the economy of the South Korea. So let's talk about the economy of the South Korea.
South Korea is a mixed economy dominated by family-owned conglomerate called chaebols. Back to 1950s, South Korea was an underdeveloped agrarian country with heavy dependence on foreign aid. The 1960s and next 30 years, South Korea was a miracle on the Han River. It grew at the average annual rate of nearly 9% and per capita income increased more than 100-fold. However, the 20th century, the economy of the South Korea be in trouble again. It was forced to accept to 57 billion bailout from the IMF. We can see the PowerPoint shows the GDP of the South Korea was 1.655 trillion USA dollar in 2018, which position in the world was number 11. The GDP grew 2.7% in 2018, and also the GDP per capita was 32,046 USA dollar, ranked 27th around the world. Theoretically, there are two methods can measure levels of the economic development: gross national income (GNI) and purchasing power parity (PPP). The Bank of Korea announced on March 5th that South Korea's GNI per capita increased by 5.4% to 31,349 US dollar in 2018. PPP in South Korea is expected to be 36,652 US dollar by the end of this quarter. According to trading economic global macro models and analyst expectations, in the long term, the South Korea GDP per capita PPP is projected to trend around 38,200 US dollar in 2020, according to our economic models. Due to the dominance of the chaebol is unlikely to last and engenders risk of slowing down. In addition, South Korea's high debt and chaebol-dominated model at the former stage inclined it to pursue skill-based technological development. At present, South Korea tends to transfer the economic model to a knowledge-based economy, named creative economy. Well-developed internet infrastructure is crucial for taking advantage of opportunities that weakness and steadily growing internet access gives to the economy. Lots of statistics how that the financial market was opened to international capital and the chaebol were able to take the opportunity to enlarge their operation skills even further and pursue a Schumpeterian technological innovation. South Korea take advantage of economics of scale is a necessary condition when transitioning from catch-up to an innovation-based economy.
So Nicole told us about the economic development of South Korea, but it's also important to focus on the human side. So now I'm going to talk about the human development in South Korea. So to assess the level of human development of South Korea, we'll take a look at the Human Development Index, HDI, which is an index that measures three key dimensions of human development: a long and healthy life, access to knowledge, and a decent standard of living. So South Korea's HDI value for 2017 is 0.903, which puts the country in very high human development category. It positions it at the 22nd place out of 189 countries and territories. It is above the average of 0.895 for countries in the OECD. And we can see here that South Korea's HDI value has been increasing since 1990. So if we now take a look at life expectancy, we can see that it has increased by 10.7 years between 1990 and 2017, and its GNA per capita has increased by about 209.5%. South Korea's benefit also from an excellent level of education. However, the atmosphere can be very stressful. Indeed, South Korea has a notably high suicide rate, partially as a result of the very stressful atmosphere surrounding education. This level of education can be explained by the increase in the foreign investment and by the government policy that emphasizes on education. We can also say that the quality of standard living is good in South Korea. 100% of the rural population has access to electricity, 99.6% of the population is using improved drinking water resources, and 99.9% of the population is using improved sanitation facilities. However, some improvements still need to be done on some areas such as environment, with the air pollution and the quality of water.
Hi, I'm Amy. For the Selena, she was talk about the human development, but it's also in culture place is important. I will talk the distance between South Korea and Australia from the culture.
If we want to know The culture distance. We need to know what culture is first. Culture is a system of value and norms that a group of people share in their life. There are 6 elements of culture: social structure, religion, political philosophy, economic philosophy, education, and language. Almost the 6 elements, there are significant differences between Australia and South Korea in social structure and language. For social structure, Australia lays more emphasis on individualism, while South Korea is more inclined to collectivism. In terms of language, the main communication language in South Korea is Korean, while the common language in Australia is English. Since South Korea is higher context language, Korea needs to pay more attention to the context and the unique culture clue when using Korean to communicate, while English can direct convey information through spoken words. Hofstede cultural dimensions is from 6 value dimensions to help people understand the cultural difference between different countries. So we use the Hofstede model to analyze the cultural distance between South Korea and Australia. According to the Figure 1 Hofstede model of South Korea and Australia, we can say Australia and South Korea are different in all the 6 dimensions of value. There are 3 dimensions: individualism, long-term orientation, and indulgence are quite different. This shows that South Korea pay more attention to the interests of group, tend to maintain time-honored traditions and norms, and advocate to suppress the certification of need through strict social norms. On the other hand, Australia pay more attention to individualism, tends to make preparation for the future through short-term efforts, and advocate to meet people's needs of enjoying their life. The culture of 2 countries will become more similar because there are general 3 directions of culture changes. There are convergency, divergency, cross-vergency. Convergency is the economic ideology drive values, and the value and behaviors become similar to those found within Western capitalistic economic. In this process, the country will become more efficiency and harmony, but it will lose the identity and the diversity. Divergence is the national culture ideology drive values. In this process, the culture retain diverse, but sometimes it will cause the cultural conflict. Cross-vergency is a unique value system formed by the integration of national culture and economic ideology. Cross-vergency will be the main direction of cultural evaluation in many countries because the influence of collaboration is explained, and the influence of economic ideology in Western countries is also explained, so South Korea and Australia culture will become more similar.
So Amy talked about the cultural differences between South Korea and Australia, and now I'm going to talk about the industry South Korea should specialize in by explaining David Ricardo's theory of comparative advantage. So Amy talked.
I'm going to be talking about the industry South Korea should specialize in when trading with other countries. I will also be giving a brief introduction on David Ricardo and how his arguments will help us identify which industry South Korea should specialize in. Basic idea of David Ricardo's arguments on comparative advantage is that everyone will emerge a winner. So what is comparative advantage? According to Ricardo's argument on comparative advantage, a country has a comparative advantage in producing a product if it has a low opportunity cost compared to another country. So keeping this in mind, I'm going to explain what industry South Korea should specialize in. The manufacturing sector of South Korea is one of the largest industries in the country, with electrical and electronic equipment being the most significant element. Comparative advantage is the single most widely used indicator for measuring a country's international trade performance. As shown in the figure, at the end of 2018, electrical machinery and equipment exports account for 30.5% of total exports in South Korea, which was followed by vehicles, which made up to 10.1% of South Korean exports. Additionally, 8% of South Korean exports was mineral fuels. According to the research carried out, it is evident that South Korea has a comparative advantage in capital-intensive goods such as electrical items. South Korea is known to have a comparative advantage in technology and innovation. Another useful example is the trading relationship between United States of America and South Korea. The USA is the second largest trading partner of South Korea. In this case, motor vehicles accounts for the largest number of exports from South Korea to the USA. Once again, this emphasizes on how South Korea specializes in capital-intensive goods, whilst other countries such as China focuses on labor-intensive goods. Another major industry of South Korea is the steel industry. As of 2018, South Korea has a comparative advantage in producing steel compared to other countries such as Russia, Germany, and Ukraine. South Korea is also the world's fourth largest steel exporter. The top three export markets for steel are China, Japan, and India, as South Korea has a competitive advantage in the production of steel over other countries. So finally, referring to the information I have mentioned, the manufacturing sector is one of the largest sectors of South Korea. The country has a competitive advantage in producing capital-intensive products, with electrical goods being one of the most significant type of goods produced in South Korea. Therefore, South Korea should specialize in the manufacturing industry with a strong focus on capital-intensive products such as electrical goods and motor vehicles. Additionally, South Korea should specialize in the steel industry. Now, Sweta will talk to you about the industries Australia should specialize in when looking to trade with other countries.
Okay. As initially said, manufacturing industry is the largest industry in South Korea, and it's the biggest comparative advantage in South Korea. So what about Australia? Now I'm going to present what industry should Australia specialize in when trade with other countries. Okay.
Using the comparative advantage to find the industries in Australia should specialize in. There is picture shows Australia's trend of mineral exports since 1969. And obviously the trend is growth in recent years. Mining contributes about 5.6% of Australia's GDP. Mineral exports contribute around 35% of Australia's exports. Of the developed countries, for comparison, in Canada, mining represents about 3.6% of the Canadian economy and 32% of exports. In the United States, mining represents only about 1.6% of GDP. It can be seen that the Australian mining industry and its exports are highly concentrated in the country. Mining industry is a large industry in Australia. The chart below shows the number of exports of some mining products, which have grown rapidly in recent years and are expected to continue to grow in the coming years. Australia is the world's largest exporter of coal, second largest of gold and uranium, and third largest of aluminum. Mining has created major economic benefits for the country. The mining industry added over 125 billion Australian dollars to the Australian economic growth in the financial year 2017. Potter's diamond also be used to analyze strong industries in Australia. Australia's basic factors have great advantages. Australia is blessed with unique natural conditions and rich mineral resources reserves. Its reserves of lead, nickel, uranium, and zinc rank first in the world. Australia leads the world in the production of key minerals. For example, the town of Mount Isa is surrounded by vast mineral deposits. When it comes to natural resources, the agricultural industry is also a strong industry in Australia. In the area of feedstock, Australia has attractive natural conditions suitable for growing dedicated energy biomass. The government provides financial support and advanced technology and equipment to the mining industry, which has greatly increased Australia's competitiveness in this area. For the agriculture industry, Australia possesses world-class agricultural science and agronomy capabilities that support well-managed agricultural production system. This has been supported by strong research organizations such as the CSIRO. So according to what I mentioned, the mining industry and the agriculture industry are two important sectors in Australia. The country has a large advantage in the natural environment and the technology, and mining products exports contribute to Australia's economic growth, such as exporter of coal. Agriculture also has world-class technology and team support. Therefore, Australia should specialize in the mining industry and the agriculture industry.
This video focuses on why Australian companies should expand to South Korea. We have provided all the reasons why companies should consider South Korea as the next expansion option based on 4 key dimensions: the globalization of South Korea, the economic development and the human development of the country, and the industry South Korea has a comparative advantage in. According to the research carried out by our group, we found out that South Korea is a winner in terms of globalization, as it is one of the main reasons for the prosperity of South Korean economy, especially because of the country's economic strategy based on growth in exports. The economic development and the human development of the country are also high. In terms of the industry South Korea should specialize in, the country specializes in the manufacturing sector with a strong focus on capital-intensive goods such as electronic goods. The country also has a comparative advantage in the steel industry, providing Australian firms with a great opportunity to expand to South Korea. With further research carried out, we found out that Australia specializes in the mining and agricultural industries. Also, Australia has a great advantage in technology. So referring back to the research carried out by our team members, Australian companies will benefit from many advantages and opportunities if they expand to South Korea, and therefore should consider South Korea as one of the expanding countries.